God just put in my heart, I want to give him this, I want to honor him with this. Not reluctantly or under compulsion. Walang force. Walang force. Third question is this. What is the difference between a tithe and an offering? What's the difference between a tithe and an offering? A tithe is something that you give to the church that you are spiritually blessed with. You're nourished by. An offering is over and above the tithe. For example, if you want to give to missionaries, you want to give to an organization, an orphanage, a school, whatever it is, over and above the tithe, that's where the offerings go. So that's simple answer to those questions. Now today, when you are thinking about tithes, don't think about tithes as just being tight, okay? When you're tight, can I put anything inside a hand that's closed? Can God put anything inside his hand? No. Because he's holding it, everything that is there. This is mine, this is mine. No. You and I must have hands that are open and say, Lord, everything I have belongs to you. And you know, when you have that heart attitude, God says, because that's the way you are, I will pour in blessings in your life. I'll pour in blessings in your life. That's what we should do. Have hearts that are not closed, but open to God. Are you with me?
With you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we talk about tithing and giving. Now, let's talk about setting up and living on a realistic budget. How many of you here are living on a budget? Are living on a budget? Thank you for your honesty. Okay, how many of you have written down your budget? How many of you have written down your budget? Because some people don't have a written budget. They're living on a day-to-day basis. But whatever comes in, bahala na, let's just spend. Pag wala na. Diba? You and I cannot live that way. Companies today have budgets. And we likewise must have a budget for our families, for ourselves. What is a budget? A lot of people think budget's a bad word. I don't like to use the word budget because budget is like, right, sinasakal tayo. Budget's, restricting us, constricting us. But think of budget as a spending plan. It's a plan where you tell your money where to go, rather than your money saying goodbye. Diba? At the end of the month, it's the 25th of the month, and then you look at your account and say, where did my money go? And that's because you don't have a budget. If you had a budget, you tell your money, you go there, you go there, you go there. And not the opposite way now. Where did you go? Where did you go? Diba? So a budget is something very simple that all of us can do. If you're living on a budget today, wonderful. Keep it up. Don't stop. If you're not living on a budget, I want to encourage you to start a budget. Especially if you're a new family, if your husband and wife that are arguing all the time, arguing about money, it's because you don't have a budget. So my wife and I will share with you what we do in order to have a budget and to live on a budget. It allows us transparency, honesty, where we can see where our money is and where it's going. And it's something we do together. You don't make your budget as a husband and she makes her budget as a wife. No, you make it together. Why? Because your money in the first place should be one. Husband and wife, listen, if you have separate accounts, you have a kanya-kanyang account, that's wrong. You must have one account or several accounts that are together, you and your wife. Do not live today with, this is my money, I'll spend for this for the family. This is your money, you spend for this in the family. No. Even if you're sharing expenses in the family, but you're still separate, that's wrong. Because you are one, you're married, you're one in God's eyes, you must have trust for each other. And this is where it starts. Now, some of the wives are saying here, wait a minute, my husband's not working, I'm working. I'm working all the money, now he's going to enjoy. You're one, you married him. Husbands, you have to understand when you got married, you were one with your wife. Whatever earnings you had before, whatever savings, you have to put it all together. You have to trust each other. That's what marriage is all about. Are you with me?
With you.
Why didn't all the singles sing with you? Okay, so putting a budget is very simple. A budget starts out by understanding your spending habits, your spending needs. Okay? The first thing I encourage you to do is come up with a list of all your expenses. Okay? Look at the next page. We're looking at page 10. Look at page 10.
No.
Page 10, there it is. Personal monthly spending plan. First, you put all your income, monthly income on top. What is my husband's income that he brings home? The wife brings home other income. All your income put in those boxes, okay? So you have a total income. Now listen carefully. Husbands and wives, if you are newly married, I do not encourage the husband to put the wife's income in the budget. Keep the wife's income separate. Do not involve it in the expenses of your budget. Why? Because if you're newly married, the chances are that your wife will get pregnant soon, and that she will have a baby and she will stop working. And when she stops working, her income will stop as well. And when her income stops, and you made a budget with her income, and all of a sudden it stopped. Without any income, your budget goes crazy. Are you with me? So you need to set aside your wife's income for the first years that you're married, because you don't want to come to a point where wala na yung income niya, and then all of a sudden you have to live with your same budget without her income. Okay, so depende. If you're old time married, then put both incomes. All right, and put a provision. If you're not paying, if your taxes are not removed from your income, remove your taxes already. So the taxes are not part of your income. All right. So yeah, less tithes and offerings and other taxes. Now, net spendable income, all the expenses you have for housing. How much do you spend for housing? Your mortgage, home insurance, your taxes, electricity, all the bills. For food, how much do you spend on food? Now, this is on a monthly basis. My encouragement to you is, as you spend for the whole month, keep receipts. Keep receipts of all your expenses for food for the month and add it up. Okay? When it comes to insurance, what are your insurance expenses? When it comes to debt, I put debt here as an expense. If you're paying debt, you need to include it as one of your expenses to pay off your debt. And then here are your entertainment. What are your entertainment expenses? Your clothing expenses, your monthly savings. I put savings here as an expense, although technically it's not an expense. It should be treated as an expense. Why? Because you're forced savings for yourself. You're setting aside money for your future. A lot of people don't do this. They keep spending all their income. At the end, they have nothing saved. But if you make monthly savings as an expense, a certain portion, at the end of the month, you will have money saved. And then you have medical expenses, miscellaneous expenses, school, childcare, etc. So, on a monthly basis, gather your expenses for these items. And then, at the end of 6 months, average all those expenses. And those averages will tell you, okay, for food and groceries, we spend about this much every month. For children, our children, we spend about this much. For transportation, we spend this much. For medicine, we spend this much. For our entertainment, we spend this much. For transportation, etc. And then you make your budget. You put all those average expenses on a monthly basis under each one. You subtract your total expenses from your total income. And then you come up with a negative answer. Most of the times, ganun yan eh. It's always negative. Because it shows you that you're spending more than you're earning. So what should you do? You have to look at your big picture and say, okay, where can we cut down expenses? Where do we cut down expenses? And you have to learn to sacrifice, get rid of that, get rid of this, get rid of that, until you find that you're balanced. It's your income supports your expenses. Are you with me? My wife has lots to say about this. Please.
I'm sure you're saying, how is it possible that I am spending more than what I'm earning? And of course, you all know that the reason why we spend more than we earn is because of a certain item in our wallet. And what do we call that?
Credit card.
You see, our income comes to us in the form of a payment maybe through the bank, correct? A bank deposit, or some of us in cash. If we have projects and we're not really employed, we have, how do you call it, seasonal income. So you're wondering, why am I spending more? And we have an answer, it's really credit card, which is another topic that we're going to discuss. So when you collect the list you're going to write down over there is so important. Many times we say, why do I have to write it down? Number one reason, when you write down every expense, it becomes a real item. You actually see where your money goes, am I right? I have an example. How many of you at least go to Starbucks or Coffee Bean or Seattle's Best or any coffee shop during a week? Raise your hand. Once a week. More should raise your hand. Okay, how many of you hang out in the coffee shop and you have to buy how do you call that? Mochaccino, Americano. On an average, how much is that? 120? Right? About 120 on the smallest one. So, if you think about it, on an average, if you spend a 120 per cup, and you go to the coffee shop once a week, that is how much a month? What is it?
480.
Okay, and a year would be approximately, I would think, 212 a month.
480.
On an average, you're spending how much for coffee a year, at the least? So can you imagine, that is your expense. So you need to write it down. But here's the problem. When you pay cash for some little things, you sometimes don't get the receipt, correct? Because you're in a hurry. How do I account for that? Those are the little things that add up. What are the little things that we buy that we don't bother to get a receipt? Movie pass, right? Or we pay a toll, then we throw the receipt. We have a lot of things, you pay for massage, home visits. Wala naman resibo yung home visit na massage, di ba? Money pedi. Okay? So we have a lot of cash expenses that we do not collect. So we might not have a very good listing. So here's why you write it down. Number one, when you write it down, it becomes real. Hindi guni-guni. Hindi ka nagugulat na, nasaan na pumunta ang pera ko? Totoo, nawawala, pero now you know where it goes. Especially if you do it monthly, because you can total it. Can you imagine if you total how much you spend on buying unplanned books? Dropping by a parlor and magpapa-blow dry na wala namang plano? Or bibili ka ng bag na mahal na wala namang plano? Unplanned expenses, that piles up, right? Husbands are laughing and are happy. We're happy. Now, when you list it down, guess what? It increases your guilt. You become guilty. If you buy a super expensive Nike pair of shoes, and then you write it down, ang sakit, di ba? Now, many of you avail of installment payments through BDO or VPI or some bonus card, right? And you feel, I'm spending less kasi tingi-tingi. Pero when you write it down, you feel it. So it becomes, number one, it's real. Number two, what? You feel the guilt. And you should. When you spend more than what you earn, nakaka-guilty, di ba? Number three, when you write it down and you're accountable to your husband, guess what? He will see it. She will see it. So, walang sikreto dapat. That's, you told them, right? No secret. So, if a man will buy something expensive like a golf set, right? Dapat alam ng wife, di ba? And if a wife will buy an expensive bag, huwag mo itago sa trunk ng kotse. Hanggang tulog si asawa. Hindi pwede. Kailangan talagang open. Thirdly, when you list it down, you will notice 1 month is not enough to understand your spending habits. You have to do it, as Jody says, 6 months. Why? Your spending habits will change in the 6 months and you get the average. So you need to do that. Why is it important to write it down? When you see it, you realize, I need to start what? Saving. When you write it down, every month you see, there was an emergency expense na flat tire. Hindi na maayos yung tire. So I need to buy a tire. It wasn't planned. So when you see your spending, you see, I have many unplanned emergencies. That's when you need to save. You realize, I can't live on my earnings. I need to start saving. And it will give you ideas as to how much to save. And then when you see it written down, you feel, you know what? This is worth it. Having a budget is worth it. And I'm telling you, that was the hardest point in our lives. It's listing and having an honest budget. Why is it important? When you see your total spending, and you see you're spending more than you're earning, you're going to have to realize it has to stop. And that is the beginning of the change of your life. Realizing where you are, your habits are not pleasing to your husband or yourself, and then you're, alam mo, it came to a point when we were listening down, yung sikmura ko umiikot. Every time I would buy, I began to realize if I buy this, I have to list it down. Diba? Okay, if I buy this coffee, I have to list it down. And it became less of a joy to buy something that was unnecessary.